Now, just over a year ago, the world's focus, of course, zeroed in on the city of Wuhan, China, where an outbreak of a mysterious illness was spreading. A year later, there is still so much we do not know about the coronavirus. But the people of Wuhan have, of course, persevered after enduring months of sickness, lockdowns, and of course, that awful stigma of being the location where many believe the virus began. Life in Wuhan is gradually returning to normal with no recorded cases of transmission, community transmission, that is, since May. Think about that. Businesses now are trying to rebound and people are starting to enjoy mixing together again at social events. But questions, of course, remain. The World Health Organization is set to visit the city this month. They'll be asking, why did the virus take hold here and what, if anything, can be done to make sure it doesn't happen again? Yuli Yang is a former resident of Wuhan and the founder of the Go Wuhan campaign. She previously worked for a number of media organizations, including right here for us at CNN, and she joins me now from Singapore. It goes without saying, it is great to see you, Yuli. And, you know, I understand that many of your family members still live in Wuhan. Kind of just describe what it's like there now. We've seen some of the pictures, but day in and day out, what's it like for your family a year on?
Thank you, Paula. I know that, you know, as the world is still struggling in your previous reporting, as mentioned, on this virus, especially with the new strand, it's kind of hard to imagine, but it's true that life is basically back to normal now in Wuhan with my friends and family and the residents in Wuhan. You know, people have been back to work for months now. Kids are back to school. Traffic are back on the street. Obviously, in this new normal, we have masks, we have temperature checks everywhere. We have to scan QR codes for contact tracing purposes. But there is this real sense of safety and normalcy back in Wuhan. But of course, amongst family and friends, people still pay extremely close attention to any news that's virus related, especially domestic news. And if there's any important stories, people spread those very quickly through the social media, like WeChat apps, to their friends. And there is especially close attention put on the elderly, wanting to make sure that they're nowhere close to any danger.
Yeah, I can only imagine, having gone through what the city went through, that community vigilance is actually quite important. You know, I remember seeing those first pictures out of Wuhan and thinking, wow, what a strict lockdown. How can they do that? How can these people endure this? And yet here we are now. The people at the time seemed to have so much fortitude, given that they really had no idea what they were facing, right? It was back in the beginning when we didn't know much about the virus. I mean, how did they get through it, really?
I know, now thinking back, it really felt that those were some of the darkest days that I can remember for my own family, for my friends in Wuhan, really. Like thinking back at the beginning of the year when Wuhan all of a sudden got into lockdown, it felt like time all of a sudden stood still. And it felt like the city was under attack by this invisible attacker, that's the coronavirus. And we had very little knowledge of how exactly to protect ourselves fully from this virus. And also we had zero idea about whether any of this is ever going to end. And that's really terrifying. And for example, you would basically have no idea whether you would have enough food to eat at the beginning days. Obviously, as the lockdown continued, there was a lot of volunteering, there was lots of solutions that communities have come up with to make sure that people have supplies and food. But when it all began, it felt like endless darkness, really.
Yeah, just what you just described there is terrifying. Now, you did start your campaign. You know, how much did the people of Wuhan need that kind of support?
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. You know, at the beginning of this whole crisis, you know, I'm sure you recall as well, there was quite a bit of racial-based hate and some attack instances as well because of this coronavirus. And obviously, as we all know now, that the virus kind of attack all of us indiscriminately, and we shouldn't really be attacking amongst ourselves. We should be giving compassion and support and care for the people who are suffering this virus, and that's why we started this hashtag Go Wuhan campaign, hoping that people would support and be compassionate for the people in Wuhan. And I'm very grateful to say that that's what we have received from across the world, and that does make a difference to people, especially for their mental well-being, knowing that they're not fighting this virus alone, even though they're under this very strict lockdown in their own homes. But they know that they're not only being the victim of hate and attacks. There are also people out there who are hoping that they will recover soon. I'm very grateful for all the messages that we have received through this campaign across the world. And I do want to say that support is important for Wuhan at the time.
Such a great message of hope to end with, and really just such an example, such optimism, just looking at the pictures from Wuhan from New Year's, as we did at the top, with everyone there celebrating in masks, but still celebrating. Yuli, thanks so much for this. Really appreciate it, and it's really good to see you.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to see you too.